You ever have that feeling like something's holding you back, but you can't quite put your finger on it? Well, what if it's not your job or your skills, but a story? An invisible story you're telling yourself. Today, we're going to talk about those stories, the lies that really limit our potential. All right, let's dive right in. We all live inside stories, right? But the crazy thing is, sometimes those very narratives, they become these invisible prisons. And the scary part, we're the ones who build them, brick by brick, with our own thoughts. And we're not talking about, lying to other people. This is way deeper. We're talking about the lies we tell ourselves. These automatic stories our brain just spins up to make sense of everything, to protect our ego, to dodge what's uncomfortable. And the kicker is, they don't feel like lies. Nope. They feel like the absolute, undeniable truth. Do any of these sound familiar? I'm just not a people person. It's too late for me to switch careers. Yeah, I bet they do. And see, that's the trap. They sound so reasonable, so rational. But what if they aren't? What if they're just stories? Really convincing stories that are secretly capping your potential and just chipping away at your confidence. Look, your brain is basically a story-creating machine. It's its main job. This isn't a glitch, it's the core programming. It takes all the messy, chaotic stuff of life and tries to weave it into a neat little story that makes sense. But, and this is so important, the story is not reality. It's just a first draft. It's one interpretation out of a million. So this is where it gets really interesting. We have to get good at telling the difference between the stories that lift us up and the ones that lock us down. Think about it. A good story, a helpful one, it's like a theory you're testing out. It's flexible. But a harmful story, that thing is like a concrete wall. It doesn't budge, no matter what proof you throw at it. Okay, so why? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we build these mental prisons? Well, it turns out the architect, our own mind, has some, let's say, interesting design flaws that we usually don't even notice. We all tend to think our eyes and our memory work like a high-definition camera, right? What you see is what you get. It feels so real, so immediate. But here's the shocker from decades of research. Our brain isn't recording reality, it's building it. And a lot of the time, it's a pretty shaky construction. Just look at this number, 69%. According to the Innocence Project, that's the percentage of wrongful convictions, people sent to prison for crimes they didn't commit, that were overturned by DNA evidence, where the key problem was a mistaken eyewitness. Think about that. Their memory felt 100% real, but it was 100% wrong. And here's the part that really messes with your head. Those witnesses, they weren't lying. They were positive they were right. They would have bet their life on it. And that just exposes this massive, dangerous glitch in our thinking. How confident we feel about something has almost nothing to do with whether it's actually accurate. You can be dead certain and dead wrong. So how is that even possible? How can our brains fail so spectacularly? It's because our brains aren't just taking everything in. No, they're filtering. They're constantly making bets based on what they expect to see, what you're paying attention to, and what story you're already bought into. There's this classic experiment that shows this perfectly. You've probably heard of it, the invisible gorilla. People are told to watch a video and count how many times a basketball is passed. Easy, right? But while they're laser focused on counting, a guy in a full-on gorilla suit walks right through the middle of the players, beats his chest, and walks off. And guess what? Half the people watching don't see it at all. Their focus literally made a gorilla invisible. So if our perception is a construction site, our memory is more like a live editing session on a movie script. It's not a file cabinet where you pull out a perfect copy. No, every single time you remember something, you're actually rewriting it a little bit. There's a famous study where they asked people about a car accident. If they used the word smashed, people remembered seeing broken glass. If they used the word contacted, they didn't. Just one word changed the memory. Okay, so we've established our brains are, let's just say, unreliable narrators. So what are the actual mental traps they use? What are the blueprints for these prisons of belief? It really boils down to two big ones. Two of the most powerful mental traps out there: confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance. Think of them as your brain's favorite tools for keeping things nice and tidy, even if it means locking you in a tiny room and throwing away the key. First up, confirmation bias. This one's a classic. It's basically our brain's default setting to only look for stuff that proves we're already right. It's like we're constantly Googling reasons why I'm awesome and my opinion is correct, We build this cozy little echo chamber around ourselves, and pretty soon, the sound of our own voice starts to sound like the voice of objective truth. Then there's its nasty cousin, cognitive dissonance. This is that cringy, deeply uncomfortable feeling you get when you see something that totally contradicts what you believe. And our brains hate that feeling. So what do? They reject the new information. It's just easier. This is exactly why some of those prosecutors, even with stone-cold DNA proof, just couldn't admit they made a mistake. The mental pain of being that wrong was just too much to handle. Now, hearing all this might feel a little bleak, like our brains are just broken. But it's actually the opposite. This isn't a reason to give up. Knowing how the system is rigged is the first step to beating it. Once you see the flaws in the architect's plan, you can take over the construction site yourself. This is where the power comes back to you. So the whole game is about shifting from what we can call borrowed beliefs to earned truths. A borrowed belief is something you just accept without questioning it. From your family, your friends, society. An earned truth, though, that's something you've wrestled with. You've questioned it, you've tested it, and you've made it your own. It's about becoming an active creator of your beliefs, not just a passive consumer. And look, I'm not gonna lie, this isn't easy. It takes guts. But this is the process that takes you from being a character in a story someone else wrote to being the author of your own. First, you have to question everything. Treat your strongest beliefs like they're just hypotheses. Then, you have to actively hunt for the other side. Don't just look for what confirms you're right. Find the smartest person who disagrees with you and really listen. And finally, you have to test it against reality. Does it actually work? Does it hold up? And let me be super clear. This is not about positive thinking. This isn't about just slapping a happy sticker on a problem and pretending it's fine. It's about doing the hard work to find stories that are both true and useful. Stories that actually align with your real potential instead of just soothing your fears. So that's the big reveal. You're the author. You've always been the author. Realizing that is a huge responsibility, for sure, but it's also the ultimate freedom. The pen is, and always has been, right there in your hand. So the only question left is, what story are you going to write?